All right, I think we're just about ready to get started here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Model Schools webinar. For today, we're going to be covering using Google Meet for student check-ins. So before we get started there, I do just want to remind everybody that we do have other sessions coming up over the next few days. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., we're going to have Heather Shaffer presenting on using Google Calendar time slots for scheduling student meetings. So that kind of goes hand in hand with kind of what we're talking about today. So you may want to tune in tomorrow to learn more about using those time slots and setting them up and kind of the best ways to get those out to your students for them to be able to have those check-in meetings. And then Friday, we have Alison Blackwell coming back with a new list of 10 additional Google Classroom tips to save your sanity. So as we all switch to remote learning, Alison is an excellent trainer. She comes with a wealth of background knowledge and expertise in how to work with students effectively as both an educator and a tech integrator. And so if you have time Friday at 1 p.m., I would definitely recommend you join us for that session. So I'm going to jump over to my other presentation here, because today we're talking about using Google Meet for your student check-ins. I'm Chris Shaffer with the Model Schools program. I'm sure I recognize a lot of the names in the chat, so I'm sure a lot of you already know me, but it's nice to see you all back, and hopefully today we can shed some new light on some of these some parts of this tool. So what is Google Meet? Google Meet is a web conferencing / video calling / virtual presentation tool where multiple users can connect in a single space. They can see each other through the webcam of the device that they're on. And it also allows you to share documents as attachments and to share your screen live with people who are in the session. You can access Google Meet a variety of different ways. The first way is to just type in the address meet.google.com. That will take you to the Meet homepage. It's also accessible through the Google App Launcher or waffle in the top right-hand corner of the screen. So if that's how you get to all of your different Google apps, you can always go through that. You may also get Google Meet invitations in a Google Calendar invitation. So I'll show you in a bit how you can set these up through Google Calendar, but if someone does create a Google Calendar invitation, they have the option to add this video conferencing option with Google Meet into that session. And so that is an option as well. And finally, you can also post the URL for Google Meet into another source like Google Classroom, or if you are sending out emails or posting to a blog, you could include it there. So some features, basic features of Google Meet are that it allows you to connect both audio and video with other participants in the call. It works across pretty much all devices. So whether you have a MacBook, a PC, a desktop, a laptop, a Chromebook, even mobile devices. So if you have, Apple Android phone, you can install the mobile app for Google Meet, and you can log in with your school Google account and access the same meetings through the app as well. There's also a phone call-in. So if someone's home and they're using their home device and they don't have a microphone built in, they could do the phone call-in while they're connected for the video portion on their device, just to get audio connection into the session as well. And like I said before, you also have the ability to present your screen to everybody else in the call. So you as a teacher can use this to present material to students or to colleagues, and it's just a great way to share information. Due to the current situation with the COVID-19 pandemic, Google has released a few features that they are extending through the end of this school year, July 1st, that are normally a paid feature, but due to the current situation, they wanted to open these up for educators across the country. So first thing is they're increasing the participant limit per Google Meet up to 250. So if you're a high school teacher that needs, 8-9 classes in a day, you could, in theory, invite them all into a Google Meet. I don't know how classroom management effective that would be, trying to manage that many people in a call, but it is possible technically within the software. They also opened up the recording option for you. So, and I'll show you how this works in a bit, but now you can join into a Google Meet session. You can enable the record option, and when that recording is complete, it saves right into your Google Drive as a finished video, which is really great because then you can take that video with specific students. You can post it to Google Classroom or send it out via email or any other method that you normally send information out. So that's a really handy feature. I believe it was yesterday, we had the flipped lesson webinar with Derek and Brittany, and using Google Meet as a way to record yourself to flip a lesson is a really handy way to harness this tool instructionally. And the last option that they've opened up for just this school year, which is normally paid, is that you can live stream an event. This would be more of like a district level thing than a classroom use thing. Because for the live stream, it's not really a two-way conversation. It's just like what you're seeing now. You would be presenting, people would connect in and see what you're able to show them and hear you and see you, but they wouldn't be able to participate in the call. They would just be idle viewers. So I see that being used probably more for like a faculty meeting or for, another kind of more global event. The only thing with the live stream within Google Meet is it's not a public live stream. You do have to have a district Google account to be able to view that live stream. So it's not something that like the Board of Ed could broadcast out to the community. They would have to have a school Google account to see that stream. So just a heads up on that. So how do I create a Google Meet session? So there's a couple different ways to do this. The first way, and I'll show you this all live in a minute, how this operates. But when you're in Google Calendar, you can, this is what it looks like when you create a new event in Calendar. So you'd give your event a title, and then about halfway down the page, there's an option, which is right now circled by or squared in with the red box. Right here, it would say add conferencing. And when you hit that drop down, Google Meet is one of the options. And when you select that and save your meeting, this URL that appears beneath where it says join Hangouts Meet would be shared with anybody you invited to this calendar event. So over here on the guest side, you can see I've invited my secondary Google account into that Hangouts Meet. And so when I go into that calendar on that account, I would see all the join information for the Meet session. So this is one way to create a Hangouts Meet pretty easily and effectively. The one thing I'll point out here too is down in the description part at the bottom, you have the option for the little paperclip to attach documents to this session. And if you do attach anything, this could come from your computer locally, from your Google Drive, from a variety of different sources. It could be a web link. Those will show up for you within Google Meet while you're in the Meet itself. And I'll show you where that appears later on. The other way to create Google Meets, and this is the one I would recommend you probably use going forward, and I'll talk about why, is to just go to meet.google.com. When you get to this page, there is a join or start a meeting option that appears. And when you click on that, it lets you create a meeting with what they call a nickname. So what you would want to do is pick something that's fairly specific to you, because Google Meet has exploded in popularity. So many more people are using it now that if you use something generic like staff meeting, anybody that goes to meet.google.com and then put a slash at the end and uses the same name could technically try and join your session. So they could click join or start a meeting, type in staff meeting, and it may actually take them right into your meeting on accident. So you probably want to be fairly specific. Maybe use your last name. You could use a district name or abbreviation, but probably want to make this somewhat specific. The advantage of creating the meetings this way is Google has realized that this product has some security vulnerabilities, I'll say, as far as how people join the meetings. So when you create a Google Meet, it just generates a 10 character alphanumeric code at the end that's just randomized characters. And that's somewhat easy to guess. So what they've done by allowing you to nickname the meetings is you can kind of specialize how people join your meeting a little bit. But also they realize that now teachers are using this with students quite a bit. And so with a nicknamed meeting that's created this way, they're rolling out a feature. I don't think it's fully rolled out yet, but they're rolling out a new update to this product where if you as a teacher stay in the Meet until all of your students leave, and then you leave the meeting, it will lock the meeting forever. No one can join that meeting again. And so the only way that works is if you create the meeting here by creating it with a nickname or within your mobile app on your phone by creating a nicknamed meeting within the app. So we'll walk through that on the website live in a second. I just wanted to kind of talk about that here. So some ideas for the classroom as far as how to use Google Meet instructionally. And this is all in addition to some of the other stuff we're going to talk about in a minute. Obviously, virtual teaching is an option now. You have the ability to use video and audio and sources from your computer to demonstrate things for your students that they may struggle with without you having that communication with them. The one thing we recommend for this is trying to keep it as short as possible. So if you're doing just an overview of a topic for the day, you want to probably keep that like 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes tops, because otherwise people just start losing their attention span. And so as far as virtual teaching, it's more of like an instructional introduction than a longer lesson or lecture. You can also use this, and this kind of is what we're going to focus on today, for more of like a virtual office hours. So if you're using Google Classroom and you're disseminating assignments there, Meet is a great vehicle to get your students to then meet with you after the fact or during the time that they're doing the work, so they can ask you questions and check in with you to see if they're progressing correctly, if they have the concept down, if there's something that you can answer for them. So that's a really handy use for Meet as a teacher. So there's some other ideas there. I'm going to skip over them for today, but if you have questions about them after the fact, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to talk through them with you. So I want to just now jump out to Meet itself and kind of talk about how this is going to look going forward. So I'm going to go to meet.google.com. And so now you see Meet homepage. And the nice part about the homepage is if I were invited to any Google Meets via Google Calendar for today, they would automatically show up here under the schedule portion. So if someone invited me to a 3 p.m. Google Meet, it would already be there. And now I could just come to this website, meet.google.com, click right on the meeting itself, and it would launch me right into the Meet. The other option here is to join or start a meeting. So I'm going to click there. And now you see what I was talking about where it says enter the meeting code or nickname. To start your own meeting, enter a nickname or leave blank. Obviously, I don't want to leave it blank because that becomes really easy for other people to join my meeting. So I'm going to create a nickname. Mr. Shaffer. Social, if I could type social studies. And So I'm going to click continue. And now it's going to launch me into my Google Meet. Maybe. Oh, it didn't like that. Shaffer, history 10, York. I'm going to try and start another one here. There we go. So what it does is it launches you to this window where you can then make sure that your webcam's enabled, that your audio's turned on. And if that's all set, I'm going to mute mine for now because it can get really confusing for me looking at the screen. You can go ahead and click Join Now. You can also click Present, which will then join you in the meeting with something already shared out to whoever's in there. But I'm just going to click Join Now. Here it quickly pops up all the information people need to join my meeting session. So I can copy this and I can paste it into an email. I could go out to Google Classroom and I could post this into that. And I'll show you that process in a second. Or I can directly invite people here. So I could click invite by email. I could select anybody out of my list here, or I could actually start typing in names. So I could type in any name I wanted and it's going to filter out those folks there. I can also add people by phone. So I could, if I know someone can't join on the computer, I could actually have the Meet dial out to them and it will actually call them. So it's automatically set for US, so I don't have to put 1, but then I could just do area code and the number and it would dial them into the call. I'm going to close that. Now you see the screen, I'm sharing it. In the top right corner up here, you'll see a few options. The first one is one that I personally like to use is called Grid View. For you to use Grid View, as a heads up, you do need, if I have to exit full screen here, you will need to have this extension, which you can't really see. It's just a black set of 4 squares in a grid called the Google Meet Grid View extension. You can ask your school if they can push that out to everybody if you want, and that would just make sure that anybody that signs in with your school's account would automatically get it. Or if they let you, you can install that extension in Chrome Web Store. But once you have it, now that I'm in a Google Meet, I can open up my grid view, and I only have myself in here, so I don't see anything. But if I had 10 people in this meeting, it would show a tile for every person in the meeting all the time instead of switching between the active person speaking on the screen all the time. That can be a little distracting and disorienting, and sometimes it becomes difficult to follow, so I recommend using that. You also have your participants list, so it'll show you whoever's connected, and the chat. So people, when they're in the Meet, can use the chat. They can type back and forth instead of speaking. So that's a kind of a way people can ask questions if they need to. In the bottom left-hand corner is the name of the meeting. If I click on that, I get the join information again. So if I need to invite someone again, I can do that. And also here is where the attachments will display, where I showed you in Google Calendar when you're creating an event, you can add attachments. Those would display here. The last few things along the bottom are your microphone and webcam. So I can turn those on and off. The end call or leave call. You can turn on captions as well. So that will automatically caption anything you're saying. I'm on mute, so it's not going to caption. And you can present your screen just like any other meeting software. So those are kind of the options in Meet. I'm going to leave this call. And I just want to quickly go back to the home screen. And I'm going to go out to Classroom. So let's say I want to schedule some student check-ins and I want them to meet with me. I've now created that Meet session that I just was in. I can now come into a Google Classroom. So I'm going to use my Tech Club Classroom. And now in either the stream, which will kind of be like an announcement to the class, or under the classwork tab, I can create an assignment or a question here, or under the stream just as an announcement, like I said. So I'm going to say, please join me for Google Meet session today. And here where it says add in the bottom, I can add a link and I could put in the information for my meeting. Now I think I have the whole meeting info, so if I paste that, that's not correct, but google.com. Okay. Let me just fix that really quick. And then once this is in, my students will then see a nice clickable button in Google Classroom. Of course, it doesn't want to take it. And it would show up just like this one that's showing right here. And they could just click on the meeting to join it there. So this would launch the Meet. And they can join now. So there's my joining through Google Classroom method. Now, I can also do this through Google Calendar. The one thing that, before I leave Classroom, I do want to point out, I sent this to all students. You could, if you wanted to schedule individual check-ins with your students, as you're creating your invitation for the Meet, you can go up here to where it says all students, and I could just select a specific student. So in this case, I only want to meet with Derek. I'm going to send this to him. And now for him, it will show up in his stream as an announcement for me as the teacher, and he'll be able to join the Meet session, but no one else will see it in their stream. So now if I go to, let me open up that other Meet again, and I'm going to get the link for it. Join it. So if I grab this link, now I'm going to put it into my Google Classroom as a link. I've sent it only to Derek. And now he should be able to click on that and join my session. So the nice part about that is, again, I've just assigned it to one student. If I had 20 kids in my class, I could choose 5 out of my list of students and send it to just them. So now you're specializing who's getting invited to the individual Meet sessions. And that way you don't end up with 20 students connecting at once, where sometimes that can become a little unruly, trying to manage all 20 kids and have meaningful conversations with them. Whereas if you're inviting one student or a small group of students, it's much easier for you to manage those. So the other way you can kind of set this up is through Google Calendar. So if I go out to calendar.google.com or go to my app launcher waffle and click on Calendar, here now I can schedule a meeting with students to come in and join me in a Meet session. So here, if I double click on my calendar, it takes me to the full event editor, and now I can create an event. So this is what it's going to show in Google Calendar. This is going to be Meet with Mr. Shaffer. And now about halfway down on the left, I have the option to add conferencing, and I can do Hangouts Meet within that menu. So if I click there, now it adds this URL for the specific Google Meet for this calendar event. And now here on the right, I can invite specific students. So here I could say again, I want to invite Derek, and I want to invite Brittany. So now I've invited 2 students. Again, I can come down here to add attachment. And this is just like in Classroom now. I can attach things just like I would have through Google Classroom. So I can pull from Drive, and I can upload documents from my computer as well. So here I can say I want to share today's presentation, for example. And now when this Meet is opened up, that will be an attachment to the meeting that anybody can open and view during the meeting. So if you're meeting with students, you can pull up work that they've done. You can pull up some great examples of work that maybe they're struggling with that might spark some ideas with them. But that's a great way to give them some kind of easy feedback as an attached document for that session. Now, when I save this, I'm not going to send the email out to anybody. But in Google Calendar now, Derek and Brittany would see this Meet with Mr. Shaffer event. They would be able to click on it, and it gives the Hangouts Meet link, which I, as the, with this open, I can copy this if I want to. Or if I go back to my Google Meet homepage, now you'll see, since I've scheduled something in Google Calendar, it automatically appears on my Meet homepage. And so from here, I can just simply click on the title, and it launches me right into that Meet session. And again, if I look down here now, you'll see it has the event name, Meet with Mr. Shaffer. If I click that up and go to attachments, you'll see that that document is attached here in the bottom left. So these are great ways to kind of get information to students before you even have the live session. That's all set up ahead of time. And now when we get into Meet, I don't have to scramble and try and find that attachment that I wanted to share with them during the session. It's already there, and we can just have our discussion and quickly access the information that we needed. Now, the only thing that I'll say about scheduling through Calendar is, again, these sessions, once you wrap up your conversation and close out the call, that meeting is technically still live. It doesn't have necessarily an end time. So that's the only kind of hiccup for schools right now that they're seeing across the state, is that sometimes students are joining the meeting after the teacher has left and resuming like a private conversation between other students. So my recommendation is to go to the Meet homepage or the Meet app on your mobile device and do the join or start meeting option and create it with a nickname. And that will let you then, after the fact, once you close the meeting, if you're the last participant out and you close the meeting, no one else can go back into that Google Meet session once that has completed and you've left. Like I said, the last time I checked yesterday, that feature hadn't rolled out to everybody yet. So as a heads up, as of right now, pretty much any Meet session is still allowing people in after you leave. But in the near future, should be in the next week or so, that update should roll out to pretty much everybody, and you should be able to then have your meetings locked once you leave them if you set them up as a nicknamed Google Meet. So just a couple of quick resources for you, and I'll make sure to send this presentation out after the session ends through my learning plan, so you'll have the link for it, so you can just click on these. The first one is Google's education team has a nice web series of YouTube content that is made to be short hits that are specific every week to a specific topic. So in this case, they've developed an EDU in 90 is what their series is called. So 90 seconds of content specific to innovating using Hangouts Meet. And so these are really high quality videos that are kind of like studio quality, but they're also pretty good integration ideas for regular classroom integration. So I would recommend that. You also have a link in here to the G Suite Learning Center, which is kind of Google's place where you can go and kind of learn all the tools. It's like a self-learning place. They also let you do within the Learning Center some of the certification. So if you're looking to get certified, you can go through the Learning Center for that. But they have a great section for Google Meet training and help documents here. So this is a nice place for you to stop to. And then, of course, we have our YouTube channel, which you visited to get to this session today. Don't forget, all of the sessions that we run, we record and post to this technology integration webinars playlist. So once you're on our channel, you can go to this section and just click on the name, Tech Integration Webinars, and it will show you all of the integration webinars we've run, and you can play them at any time. After we record them, they're available just like any YouTube video. So whenever you want to visit those, you can. And also on the channel, if I go back here, if I go into any of the videos, don't forget you have the ability to subscribe to our channel, and that will send you notifications every time we go live, or some of the content that we're posting, we're not doing live. We're just recording and posting some of the training content. So those you'll get a notification for as well. So I would recommend subscribing if you're interested. and you'll get those ahead of time. And if you have any questions about how this works, getting this set up, setting up these meetings with your students, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is here on the page. I'm happy to send emails, talk on the phone. This is our, excuse me, my office line, but it's redirected to my laptop. So even though I'm remote working, I can still receive calls. So feel free to call if you feel the need to get information. Otherwise, check out our MORIC.org/PD for upcoming workshops. We'll be posting next week's webinars probably tomorrow. So just keep an eye out on the calendar for next week for those sessions. And we look forward to seeing you in future broadcasts. I will hang out in the chat here for a few minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free to pose them there. Okay, I see this question from Patty. So if I want to meet at a later time, do I create the meet and send the info out with a time? And it won't open until that time. Unfortunately, the way Google Meet is set up, as soon as that meet is created, it's technically active. So if you're not meeting until a later time, what I would do is, if this is for students, post in Google Classroom that we're going to have a meet, let's say Friday at 1 p.m. But I wouldn't put the meet information into that post. I would just put that in there as an announcement or a reminder. Hey, we're going to meet on Friday at 1. And then Friday at like 12:45, 12:30, you can go in and you can post that meeting information then. And that way they won't be in before you're able to be in to monitor the meet. And so hopefully that will avoid some of the things that students may try and get away with otherwise. Okay. So when the lockout feature becomes available, can you use the same nickname? So that's going to be tricky. If you want to keep a meeting nickname consistent, I don't have any guidance from Google as to whether or not you'll be able to use that kind of meeting over meeting. If I do get a chance to test the feature and I see that's either working or not working, where even though the meeting gets locked when I leave, maybe they let me use the same nickname. What I'll do is just go into my learning plan for this session, and I'll just send an update to you all to let you know whether or not that seems to be working, but we will test that for you. So if there are no other questions yet, I will hang out a few minutes, like I said. Otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you back tomorrow. Thank you all so much. So a good question from Mike here about whether or not it's recommended to use Google Meet currently with the risk of students joining in kind of an unmonitored fashion. I think that's totally up to kind of your district and your building. I would pass it through your administration. I think some districts have taken a stance on this, and some are just leaving it up to teacher discretion. So I don't want to steer you incorrectly based on what your district is wanting you to do. That said, it really depends on how you're getting students into the session. I mean, if you're sharing the link via Classroom, you can delete that post after the fact, and that link would be gone. So as long as no one has kind of like bookmarked it or anything, that session would technically kind of be unusable to them after they leave the first time. So there's kind of ways to work around it currently. But like I said, hopefully in the next week or so, that feature where the room will lock out should roll out across all domains. I was hopeful that it would have been in by now, but like I said, the last time I checked it, it was not there. So again, I would just double check with your district administration or your building principal and see what their stance is as far as you using that currently. Oh, good question from Sherry. So if you're in a Google Meet session and you click on an attachment, will appear in the screen in place of the video? Honestly, I don't think it does. I think what it does is it opens a new tab for you. So for example, if I open up this meeting that I had set up and I open the attachment, yeah, so what it does is it opens a brand new tab in your browser, and it opens that document with the rights that you would have been assigned to it. So if I'm the owner of the document, you can see here I have editing rights. But if I were just a viewer, like if I were just in the meeting and saw the link, I would only have view only rights to it. So it just opens in a new tab, and then I still have the meeting open in the other tab. Good question from Patty about instructions for parents to help their student join. I know I have a first and a fourth grader at home right now, and they're both doing Google Classroom and using Google Meet periodically with their teachers. And so it's been an interesting kind of balance for both myself and my wife, trying to get them the help they need to get into the sessions. As of right now, I don't think we as a RIC have like a help document for Google Meet, but there's tons of instructions online. And what I can do is when I send the email out with this presentation link, I'll put a couple of links in there for a couple of examples of kind of parent emails about Google Meet and how to join a Meet session that may help them with that process. The only thing is, obviously, it won't be specific to your specific meeting with like the URL or anything, but it will at least get them to the sites and show them how to maybe turn on, make sure the webcam's on and the microphone and things like that. So I'll just make sure to include that in the follow-up email.